Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Viewers, this video is particularly intended for Muslim audience from all over the world, especially the people who don't speak or understand Urdu or Hindi but are Muslims. So primarily they can be from the Middle East or other European countries. What is it like for a Muslim family to migrate to Canada? What it means for a Muslim family in the long run? What cost you have to pay to integrate into the society? And what kind of future can I predict for a Muslim family? Generally speaking, definitely there are exceptions. I would share my own experience since I moved here with my family in February 2023, and I've not seen much of Canada ever since. Really, we just came and rented a basement and have been living very basically here. But let me share my experience with you. I come from Pakistan and I'm a kind of person who generally offered 5 prayers a day in the mosque. Okay, and I will just talk about myself, not about my family. Definitely there are a lot of mosques in Pakistan. We had all the time in the world, definitely as well, because the kind of lifestyle people have in Pakistan is generally, even especially if you are not going to a job or you are self-employed, then you have a lot of time to yourself and you can basically do whatever you want. And I could easily find time to go to the mosques and offer my prayers there. Here in Canada, what happens is that, first of all, there are very few mosques, and if there are, they are so distant from your home generally that you have to drive to the mosque every time you have to go there. People generally stay so busy in their day-to-day activities that they cannot find time to go to the mosque even on car. Most of the people here are employed, they are doing jobs, and what happens is that when you are in a corporate environment, when you are in an office where you might be the only Muslim there, so you are at the office from, let's say, 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 8 in the morning to 5 in the evening. You might experience only one time of prayer in between, and that is of Zohar. Some people are fortunate enough to find a space where they can offer the prayers, but not every Muslim employee has that kind of space available at the workplace. So, first of all, this Zohar prayer, and then commuting from work and back, your Asr time might also get passed, and when you have to offer qada on a day-to-day basis, then gradually uh, you will experience a stage where you are so tired and you're so worn down after a hectic day at work that you might start skipping the prayers. It happens gradually, but eventually you might experience a substantial change in your prayer routine or tendency to pray 5 times a day daily. Cannot say for myself because in this 4 months of period that I have spent in Canada till now, mashallah, I do not remember having missed any single prayer. However, yes, there have been plenty of qaza prayers, but yes, I have offered them. But that's just me. I cannot say that for everyone, and me included, is just God's mercy that I am able to do it. But I have observed that this country generally in this country, religion is a very unpopular topic, especially for the Muslims, because they are very few in number. You will find plenty of non-Muslim people around you. So even if you are dressed Islamically, like wearing a scarf among all the people who, many of whom are showing a lot of skin. See, it's not just about acceptance, inclusivity, or diversity. What happens is that people have a tendency to feel negative about others who they know deep inside do not agree to your ideology. So there can be incidents of racism and discrimination. Well, I have not experienced any in person, but a few of them catch the limelight, are even reported in the social media, and and it happens all over the world, not just in Canada. But to say that you think, you take back a step and think for a moment that in an environment where, because in Canada people can wear anything, there's a fully covered hijabi woman sitting among others who are dressed culturally or according to their understanding or ideology, and many people are showing a lot of skin, including women. So, how do you think they will feel about this sister who's sitting in hijab? Some of them, yes, will understand that she's following her religious dress code, but not everybody has that tendency. Some people will think that this woman who's fully covered disagrees to being uncovered. In other words, she disagrees to the way we are dressed. They have a tendency to think like that. It goes both ways. Everybody following a certain ideology has a tendency that people not following that ideology do not agree to them. This is very logical. So, the point I want to make here is that religion is a very unpopular topic here. It is not weaved into the culture. The culture itself has parted ways with religion in a lot of ways. Even if you don't go just by Islam by definition, we see the culture going in a direction that is not aligned with the teachings of other religions as well. People here are very practical, very business oriented, and their efforts are focused at and oriented around growing professionally, achieving, getting more and more, and accumulating more and more wealth, which fundamentally does not align with the religious ideology, because religion does, especially Islam, never encourages people to accumulate wealth. The religious ideology is to distribute wealth, is to spend it on genuine causes, spend it on places where people genuinely need help, and be more conscious about what you are sending for yourself in the life hereafter by doing sadaqah and khairat. But then if you're doing that, then you're compromising your financial worth, which has a lot of meaning in here in the Canadian culture. So by I'm not saying that Canadians do not do charity. I'm not saying that. Please don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is the effect of cultural human psychology here is such that it encourages people to accumulate more and more wealth, to multiply their wealth, because people who have got a lot of wealth are idealized, and people look up to their lifestyle and want to be like them, which is not possible without compromising many of your religious ideologies that you came to Canada with. For example, let's say, for one, let me tell you, Islamically, you can, you know how against Islam is um, uh, with respect to riba. There is no place of riba. There is no allowance for riba in our religion. Riba means interest. So we may not open savings accounts in banks. Okay, but how are we ever going to get our first home in Canada without getting into the mortgage system that is interest based? Yes, there are Islamic alternatives to this, and Islamic ways of doing things. But then some people think that it's just doing the same thing the other way. That is also quite like interest. But I personally think if somebody can go that way, they should adopt the Islamic route toward doing this, because at the end of the day, they have some religious support and fatwas to back up whatever business model they have come up with. And it's at least better than choosing something that is overtly un-Islamic, that the interest-based mortgages from the banks. So one way of doing this is by going through Islamic institutions, because they are also working in Canada and they are very much available. Yes, but people think they turn out to be generally more expensive than the mortgages that they get done through the banks. But it's up to you. Some people also think that since it is never possible practically for a new immigrant family to have that kind of money generally, that they can just buy some home upfront and all in one go, and home being a basic human necessity, everyone has to have a home. One cannot live on rents on their entire life. Well, some people do, because they do not even want to go by an iota of doubt. They just have this understanding that interest is not allowed, so interest is not allowed, and they never buy homes here. But some people think and have this understanding, and I'm sure they have done their religious homework as well in a lot of ways, that they say that there is um, space for at least one basic home for a Muslim family, religiously as well. It is quite understandable that it's not doable by just paying off the home all in one go. So they have to secure mortgages, but one home only, because it's basic human and it's a fundamental human necessity. But anything beyond that is taken as something that you're trying to do business with, just to accumulate more wealth from. So that is clearly, even in such Muslims' perspective, clearly un-Islamic and clearly unacceptable Islamically. But I think that for one home, they might be forgiven, or they might not be held accountable Islamically. So you see, for Muslims here in Canada, there are many, many challenges. For one, it's so difficult to even arrange the down payment for a home. All right. For one, you can never think about buying a home all your life, but then you all the time have to live as a tenant. And you cannot really relate to a place and really have a fuller experience of living in that place if you know you'll always be renting. A tenant cannot really relate, or form a bond or emotional connection with the place they have rented out. Even for us, we were very fond of decorating our home back in Pakistan. We knew that was our own home. Here in Canada, we are just trying to cope up. We're not. It doesn't even pass. It doesn't even occur to me that I should decorate my home. That I should fix a chandelier here, or maybe put some wallpapers here, or maybe some beautiful carpets on the floor. No, it doesn't matter. This is not my home. Not that we can live in unclean environment, or environment that doesn't look neat or good, but to take it to another level only happens when you have an emotional connection with that place, that as tenants we can never have with this place. We know this home is not ours. We will have to leave it eventually, and most of it depends upon when I get a job and where I get a job in Canada. I'll have to move with family over there. So I cannot more precisely build an emotional connect with this place. So this is not right, like really having a fuller living experience. And you cannot have this going on all your life. Eventually you'll want to buy a home for yourself, a place that you can call your own place, where you do not have to worry about paying the rents or being thrown out if you don't pay the rents. That's another story, that for many people it actually takes a lifetime to pay the mortgages off and finally be able to call that place a home. But for many it happens in their life as well, and they are able to be done with the mortgages in a span of 5 to 6 years, and then they can call that place a home. Yes, the property taxes still keep going on, and home maintenance and whatnot, but still, at least that's their home, and they have built an equity, and they've built a property that once sold will yield a handsome capital for them, that they can take out and maybe purchase property back in their homelands and live much more prosperously over there. But the thing is that as a Muslim, it is very difficult in Canada, because for one, to arrange down payments, even if it is 5% for a property, here in Ontario especially, and then once you have that property, then you have to go through that emotional exercise, and the struggle, the religious the struggle with your internal understanding of religion, and the internal Muslim, the Muslim within you, that Allah has deemed interest, riba, a heinous thing, and now you have to get into it to secure a home. So if you don't adopt the Islamic route of doing it, then you have to go by the interest based mortgages that banks are lending you, and then you somehow come to terms with it, thinking, okay, it's just one home that I'm going to buy, but there is a fight that you do with yourself, and then you make this decision with your tongue being in your cheeks, with like there's always a shadow of doubt on it, whether this step that you've taken is Islamically legit or not. And then many people say that you may take this step, but then there will be no barakah in it and all that. So all of this complicates things for Muslims in many ways, and it's just one example of securing a home. Then there are problems of all kinds of problems, culturally integrating into the society, into the workplace. So I guess for non-Muslims it's a heaven. It's like integrating into this society is extremely easy, and this society actually provides them with a kind of lifestyle that they possibly can never have elsewhere in the world. But for Muslims, especially for people who take their religion very seriously, I'm not talking about extremism of any kind, because there's subjectivity around this word extremism as well, because some people do not really understand what they think. If somebody is practicing Islam, he's an extremist, whereas that's not the case. Islam by ideology fundamentally is not an extremist religion. The people who take things out of context and uh, and do things from their own understanding, stretch things beyond limit, and go on a tangent, they become extremists. It's not that they have religion backing them up on those decisions. But for some people, even if somebody is praying 5 times a day, they are an extremist Muslim because they are so much into prayers, which I think is the wrong thing. That's just practicing religion. Some people are just by name Muslims, some people are actually practicing Muslims. So to call a practicing Muslim an extremist, or to associate stigma with that, or to think that that person will behave a certain way or in weird ways, is fundamentally wrong. But the thing is that Islamically, especially because of this riba thing, this interest thing, which is so well integrated into the society, the credit cards, your credit score, you got to keep the credit cards, you got to use the credit cards in order to build your credit score. And if you dig deep into it, even having credit cards is not Islamically legit, because okay, you may take loan and you paid off the next day without incurring any interest on it, but even to enter the contract that if you miss the deadline you would be charged interest on that, even that is not allowed. So Muslims have to do many things here that they think there was no other way of going about that thing but to do that. And that step is not Islamically supported. So, in all these respects, it is difficult to really come to terms with the kind of life Canada provides being a Muslim. So it's a very, very, very big struggle, and Muslims have to make uh, a very well thought decision whether they can call Canada their long term home, or they just want to come here and spend some time and then go back. It's an individual choice, it's up to you to decide. But, you know, there are many difficulties here. Do share your thoughts and experiences in the comment section below, and do think about all these aspects before making the decision of migrating to Canada. It's a very, very beautiful country, no doubt. The laws are very sound. The legal system is very sound and strong, and to a big extent, they are extremely good laws. But especially because of this interest thing that is so well weaved into the economic system and fabric of this country, um, sometimes you have to get into deals that involve interest, taking interest. And if I'm wrong in any place, because I can be as a human being, because all what I said in this video is based on my observation, I can be wrong, and learning is a constant process, and I might find more or better things later in my life. But do share what you think about all this in the comments below. And consider subscribing to this channel. I'll always try to put genuine, honest reviews and valuable content on Honest Reviews Canada. Take care. Allah Hafiz.